I had something called soft belly for a very, very long time, and I didn't think there was a way to get rid of it. I was in a huge calorie deficit, like everybody told me, and I was meant to lose fat, right? But I just got smaller. I was still skinny fat, and I didn't really know how I was going to fix this issue. So I did a bunch of research, I made a 4-step plan, and I followed it for 4 months. And these were the results. So let's not waste any time and get straight into it. The first thing is we want to ditch these huge calorie deficits. So you guys have been told to be in a 1000 calorie deficit or a 900 or an 800. And this is just ridiculous. Let me explain. A huge deficit facilitated mainly by cutting back on food triggers metabolic adaptation. What that means is it slows your metabolism to conserve energy. What this leads to is plateaus, muscle loss, and you'll face intense hunger, which will lead to binge eating later down the road, which is going to erase all these efforts that you took to be in this 1000 calorie deficit. Let's say we want to target 1.6 pounds of fat loss per week, okay? The first thing we're going to do is calculate our maintenance. So your maintenance it may vary. Mine's was 2,500 at the time of doing that cut. And what I did was I took around 200 off, okay? Now, I took about 200 off, which meant that in order to be in the deficit I needed to be in, I needed to eat 2,300. In order to lose 1.6 pounds a week, you need to be in roughly an 800 calorie deficit per day, okay? Now this was my goal, and so obviously 200 is not going to cut it. So I did 600 calories of active calorie burn, so walking and things like that, to bring my deficit on the day from negative 200 to negative 800. And that would mean that over the week, I would be down the amount I need to burn 1.6 pounds per week. Now, you're probably wondering, what's the difference? Because you're still down 800 in the day. Well, here's the thing. Let's say your maintenance is 2,500. What you're normally told is, okay, let's take off, 600 with our food, so we only eat 1,900, and then, we do walking and burn another 100, 200. You guys are being told that the biggest amount of your deficit should be facilitated with your cutting back on food, okay? And that's just completely wrong, okay? People are telling you to cut back on food, loads and loads and loads. So you're eating like barely any calories, especially as a man. If you're eating 1,900, that's not good, okay? You're going to tank your testosterone. You're not going to feel as good. You're going to have no energy, all these kind of things. You don't want to be doing this, and that kind of just leads to a skinny fat body. So my approach is different, and I'm saying, okay, we'll eat 2,300. We won't take as much off the food, but we will compensate with the 600 calorie burn. Now, of course, these numbers are very specific. This is if you want to lose 1.6 pounds in a week, okay? But if you just want moderate fat loss, I actually recommend not even being in a calorie deficit with your food. What I mean by that is, let's say your maintenance is 2,500. If we have no specific goal of losing a certain amount in a week and we just want to lose fat over time, I would honestly say, don't even take a number off this. In fact, you can even add some. I do now. I actually eat 2,800 because I'm in no rush to lose fat now. I was back then, but now I'm not. So I actually eat above my maintenance, and then I burn about 600 calories actively with walking per day, and obviously training and all, and fidgeting like I am now. And what that does is it brings me to 2,200 calories a day. But the difference is I haven't had to cut back on food. I don't feel tired because I've eaten loads and loads of food. And I'm able to still build muscle and feel good in the gym while being in a deficit and while losing fat. This is what you want to aim for, okay? If you're in these huge deficits and you're cutting back on carbs and cutting back on protein, you will lose muscle, you will look soft still, you still have this soft belly problem, and it's not going to turn out how you expect. And this is from experience. Step number 2 of this 4-step plan is to prioritize protein. When constructing a diet, let's say again, our maintenance is 2,500, and let's say you followed my advice. Let's say you don't want to be in too aggressive of a deficit, and let's say you're willing to walk a lot. We can then eat 2,400, and we can then rely on walking to bring us down to maybe 2,100 or 2,000 or whatever rate that we want to lose fat. The point is, let's say we're going to eat 2,400. So as I said, when constructing a diet, the first thing we want to look at is the protein. So what we're going to do is take our body weight. So let's say our body weight is 200 pounds, right? And what we're going to do is multiply it by 1. Pretty simple. We get 200 grams. And this is the amount of protein in grams that we should consume. Once we hit our protein goal, we're good. We don't need to worry about anything else. So my recommendation is this. Plan out your meals. If you know you're going to eat 4 meals in a day, work backwards, okay? Take this number of 200 right here and split it between the amount of meals you're going to have, so you know 50 grams is going to go into each meal. Then once we do that, we can think about carbs. Now, people often forget about carbs, and I'm kind of going on a bit of a tangent here, but it's still related. People often ditch carbs when they're trying to cut, but this is not sustainable, okay? I do not recommend this approach. You're going to, again, feel tired. It is not the way to go about it. Instead, what you want to do is, I'm going to use the example of 200 pounds. You want to eat between 100 and 150 grams of carbs if you're this weight. The general rule is eat between 50 and 75% of your body weight in grams of carbs, and time the carbs around your workouts, so before and after. This way, you not only will you get an insane pump and you'll feel really good in the gym, but this will contribute towards you maintaining your muscle mass, of course, alongside eating lots of protein, because you're able to push hard and heavy and progressively overload. But also, mainly, this is just way more maintainable and realistic. Now, back to protein. You may be wondering, what's so important about protein? Why do I need to prioritize it? Well, this brings me on to my third point, which is strength training. So when you're in a calorie deficit, if you don't train, your body has no reason to keep that muscle that you have. Think about it like this. Without resistance training, there's no signal to your muscles, and the body will simply just break it down for energy, especially if you're compensating on things like carbs. And another thing is reduced metabolism. So losing muscle mass, which will eventually happen if you don't strength train, will lower your resting metabolic rate. What this does is it makes it way harder to maintain weight loss, and it also makes it way easier to regain weight later. Again, these are things that in the long term we do not want. So here's what I recommend. 3 to 4 days per week, okay? That's it. 3 to 4 days per week. The main thing here is, well, two things. One is consistency, okay? So 3 to 4 days a week for months on end will get you insane results. So you need to make sure you're being consistent with this. Now, for most beginners, I recommend 3 to 4 days because it's the most maintainable and realistic for most people that are getting started, but not also that for people that are busy. But also, and the second thing is that you need to make sure that you're progressively overloading. Again, if you stay at the same weight or the same reps for months and months on end, your body's going to get used to that weight, and there's going to be no signal for your muscles to grow because your weight and your reps are not growing. So grow the amount of weight that you use per week and your muscles will grow alongside it. So let's just say you're doing 8 reps with a certain weight pretty comfortably, right? What we want to do is increase the weight by 1 increment. Now, see if you can do those same 8 reps comfortably. If you can't, and let's say the 8th rep is pretty much at failure, that's good. If the 8th rep is not at failure, then increase the weight until it is. And if you hit a weight where you can't do 8 reps, then your goal should be to get to 8 reps with that weight. Do this with every single exercise. Okay, so that's strength training covered, and this is the final thing I want to cover. Most people skip over this part, and that's probably why you're having to watch videos like this again and again, and it's recovery. Okay, so there's 2 parts of recovery. One is pretty obvious, and it's sleep. Okay, so I recommend between 7 to 9 hours of sleep per day. Now, I personally sleep kind of longer than this. A lot of days I'm in bed for between 9 and 10 hours, but again, this is not realistic for most people. And even for me, I'm having to adapt to my schedule, and I'm sleeping sometimes 8, maybe even 7 hours, but I recommend between 7 and 9 hours. Your body not only releases growth hormone while you sleep, but you just need sleep to function properly. So this is the perfect opportunity to get your muscle building, your fat loss benefits, everything. So you need to be doing this. People that are sleeping 5 or 6 hours wonder why they're storing extra belly fat. Well, it's because maybe you've got an elevated level of cortisol because you didn't get enough rest. And again, that's going to store fat. Or simply you didn't have enough time for your body to even recover. So you need to sleep. But the second thing is during the day, on your recovery days, because as I said, I only recommend 3 to 4 days of training. On the other days, what you're going to do is something called active recovery. So of course, you want to hit your steps. You want to hit your, 10 to 15,000 steps per day. But also do things like stretching. Make sure you're not just sitting down. This is going to help slowly get your muscles in a bit of a state where it's more optimum to recover. Those 4 things will help you get rid of your soft belly or your skinny fat and help you achieve a body that you actually want. Now, before you click off the video, check in the description if there's a link. That link is for one-to-one coaching. Now, if it's there, it means there are some spots available. And if it's not there, that means that the spots have been completely taken for now.